I need to not knock these over. I feel like I'm like squished between the two book stacks. I'm caffeinated. I got my Goodreads pulled up. Got my book stamped, ready to stamp all these books after I talk about them. And we're gonna talk about every single book that I read in 2023. I read 38 books. That's probably the most I've ever read in a year ever. Except for one year I was in 6th grade and I think I read like 100 books, like that whole school year. In my adult life, this is the most books that I've ever read in a year. My Goodreads goal was 40, so I was just too short, which kind of makes me mad. It doesn't matter, like it really doesn't, but I just wish I could have hit that, like, you know, the goal that I set for myself. That's why I did lower it to 35 for this year, so hopefully we can hit that. I did have 3 DNFs, which I've only DNF'd 1 book before this year, so 1 like hard DNF, like I'm never coming back to it, and 2 that I do plan on hopefully finishing this year. So first let's talk about my stats. So like I said, I read 38 books. That is 13,949 pages, which is crazy to me. So I pulled up, someone made this my year in books thing. It's basically like a Spotify Wrapped, but for books. I thought that was really cute, so I typed in all my information. So like I said, 38 books read. Minutes read, 23,713. I will say, I don't know how they calculate that, but I'm definitely a slow reader, so I probably read for longer than that. Top genres, romance, 34, contemporary, 27, and young adult, 15. That's crazy. I feel like I did not read 34 romance books, but top author was Sarah J Maas because I read the ACOTAR series. My reading vibes, hopelessly romantic, that makes sense. And then some of my 5-star reads. I think these were just like my last 3 5-star reads of the year. So now that we have all those stats, I have all of my books in order, starting up here, going down, and then like going down. Except for this one was the last book I read. It was so small, I didn't want to put it on the bottom. So the first book that I finished in 2023 was Kiss Her Once for Me, and I will say, let's see, I started reading this on December 6th, 2022, and I finished it on January 3rd, 2023. So technically I didn't read the whole thing in 2023, but I still counted it. This was a Christmas book. I rated this 4 stars, it says. Probably, if I read it now, I'd probably give it like a 3.75, but it was good for what it was. A little Christmas book. Ellie loses her job, and then it's fake dating, but then she realizes that the guy that she's fake dating, his sister, she like hooked up with like a year ago last Christmas. So it was like this whole thing. It was good for what it was, like I said, like just a cute little Christmas read. I would definitely recommend this. I'm just going to give you guys what I rated it at the time. It doesn't matter if I would have changed it now, but so at the time I rated it 4 stars. Moving along, we have another book that I started it in 2022, but I finished most of it in 2023, and I rated this one 5 stars. This was my first 5-star of the year, I guess. This is called Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda Lo. This is a historical fiction type thing. It's set in the 1950s in San Francisco. Yeah, about a Chinese American named Lily. So it's like during the Red Scare and all that stuff. So it's a lot of like that type of stuff. Very like interesting book, and I feel like it was very informative, and I learned a lot about like that time, even if it was, you know, a fictional book. But also the cover is just so beautiful. So I really recommend everyone to read this. It was really good. First real 5-star of the year. If you've watched any of my book videos, I feel like I cannot shut up about this book. Again, rated this 5 stars. Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. It's probably a very controversial opinion that I rated this 5 stars, but for me, this is the very first like hockey romance I've ever read, so maybe my opinion will change over this next year, but I loved it. I've not stopped thinking about this book all year. I've even considered like rereading it. So I feel like for me, like that's when you know it's a 5 stars, like if you cannot stop thinking about the book. It's about Anastasia and Nathan, and she's a figure skater. He's a hockey player. The hockey rink, they have like 2 separate rinks on campus, and the hockey rink like is trashed or something. So then they have to share, the 2 teams have to share a rink. And it's very much like found family, like I really enjoyed this, and I was really looking forward to the second book in the series, which I will talk about later, but so good. The next book that I read in January was a really good reading month for me. I read The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han because I really wanted to watch the show, and the new season was coming out this year, which I actually never finished watching the new season. I watched the first season and then okay, anyways, I rated this 3 stars because I feel like if I would have read it when I was younger, I would have enjoyed it more, but it's very much YA. Just a fast, quick little read. Next book that I read, I rated this 4 stars, The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. This is my very first Lynn Painter book that I read, and well, first and only, but I really want to read more of her books. This is one of her YA ones, and it came out, I read it like right when it came out, and it's a basically Valentine's Day, Groundhog's Day situation where this girl keeps reliving the same Valentine's Day over and over. Her boyfriend cheats on her and she like keeps reliving that. It's not a spoiler, it says it, but it's a lot. It's very repetitive, obviously, because it's a Groundhog's Day book, which like you can't really avoid that in a book like that. It's gonna be repetitive. She's gonna keep waking up and it's gonna be the same day. So it's a cute little Valentine's Day book to get you in the mood. It's very short too, so fast little read. It was very fun. The next book is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I feel like you've probably heard about this book. It's very widely known. I rated this 4 stars. I really wanted to read this because I've heard, you know, raving reviews about it. The thing is, I wasn't a like Greek mythology kid. I never really got into that as a kid, and that's what this book is, obviously, Song of Achilles. So I feel like I kind of maybe missed like some references or just like something in the book. I still enjoyed the story for what it was. Like, you didn't have to know Greek mythology to enjoy it, because some of it was like obviously explained like through the story. It was a beautiful, you know, love story, tragic, sad. I did cry at it, I believe. This was like one of the only books that made me like really cry this year, so it was really good. And I really, if you're thinking about reading this, I definitely recommend picking it up. It took a lot of brain power for me. Not a lot, but it took some brain power for me. But I'm very glad that I did read this and finally get it off of my TBR. The next 2 books that I read were the next 2 books in the summer series. So It's Not Summer Without You and We'll Always Have Summer. Can I be so honest? I don't fully remember. Oh yeah, this is the one Conrad like runs away and then she has to like, Belly has to chase him. I don't know, this is where I stopped watching the TV show, so I don't remember much. I rated this one 3 stars as well, and then I also rated this one. I rated the whole series 3 stars. I did not love Belly and Jeremiah's like whole relationship in this one. I was just not enjoying myself reading this one, but I like the way it ended. I just feel like she should have like, girl, just drop these 2. Like, just drop these 2 men. You can find someone better. But that's just my opinion. The next book that I read is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. One of my favorite authors, like probably my favorite author. This was so good. I was kind of scared going into it because it's like very much about tennis and about this tennis player who just like wants this redemption arc and wants to take back this record, wants to take back her record because her record was broken and she was in the audience when it happened, and so she's like, okay, well now I'm gonna get back into tennis and like train and, you know, win back this record. You kind of hated Carrie at sometimes throughout the story, but also you just like had to love her and like her determination. It was so good. This was very much a 5 stars. Then this next book is, okay, this is the Loathe to Love You novellas by Ali Hazelwood. So there's 3 different stories in this one book. So I did count them each separately on Goodreads, but technically they're all in one book. So when I say 38 books, I'm counting this as 3 technically because it's 3 different little novellas. They're called Under One Roof, Stuck With You, and Below Zero. So I rated Under One Roof 3, Stuck With You 2, and Below Zero 1. I was in a mood apparently. They were okay. There wasn't much to them. I could not tell you a single thing about any of them. I enjoy her full book stories much more than I enjoyed these, but again, they were entertaining to read, you know, just sit down and enjoy a little story, quick little story. My first thriller of the year was Verity by Colleen Hoover. Not interested in reading any more of her books, but disclaimer, I did enjoy this though. I did really enjoy this. I rated this 4 stars. I did not guess the ending. I did not guess the plot twist. I feel like if you can't guess the plot twist, then that's a good thriller to me. And I feel like the ending is very ambiguous, so you can kind of like decide for yourself what really happens. We have made it to the first DNF of the year. This one is called How to Love Your Neighbor. I rated this, well, I didn't rate this because I didn't finish it. I ordered this from like a Target like book sale and it was just sitting on my TBR, so I was like, okay, let's pick it up. And it has such a good premise on the back. It's like an HGTV show. She's trying to like fix up her house and she's finishing school, working a bunch of like weird jobs, and then this like rich guy moves in next door. He's a real estate developer and basically he like wants her house. And I read not even halfway. It just wasn't for me. It felt, I would sit down and read and it felt like I wasn't getting anywhere in the story. I think I like skimmed like the last few chapters and I will not be picking that one back up. Last book of this stack, Loveless by Alice Oseman. I rated this 4 stars. I wanted to get through Alice Oseman's, not backlist, but like her whole not discography, because that's for musicians. What's the word? Just her whole, all of her books. I wanted to read the whole, you know, universe, because all of her books are kind of basically set in the same universe, I believe. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's just a lot about like finding yourself in college, like a coming of age type of story. First up, we have What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. I rated this one 2 stars. I did not believe that they actually liked each other. Like, basically, they run into each other one day. Ben was like sending a box of his ex-boyfriend's stuff at the post office, and Arthur was at the post office, and they like ran into each other and they had this meet cute. And it was really cute, and like I actually believed then that they were like, ooh, like liked each other. But then they never like swapped information, but then they eventually found each other again. And I just like, they were like forcing it to work. I feel like they just did not like each other. I don't know. So that was my thing. It was set in New York, so I did like the setting. Next we have Happy Place. After that disappointing read, I needed something amazing, and of course when Emily Henry releases a new book, it's gonna be amazing. So this was a 5 stars. If you want to see me go in depth about it, go watch my Happy Place reading vlog. It was so perfect to get me in like the summery mood, and I'm so excited for her new book this year. The next book that I read is called I Was Born for This, also by Alice Oseman. I love her covers as well. Like the US covers are so pretty. They illustrate them themselves. I rated this 3 stars, which is actually lower. I thought I was gonna enjoy this one more than Loveless. I honestly don't remember why I rated this 3 stars, if I'm being honest, which is why this year I'm taking notes on all the books I read, so I know like why I rated them what I did. Basically, it's about parasocial relationships with celebrities, which was like, I was like, that's right up my alley. Yeah, I just felt like the believability of it wasn't there. It was almost reading like a Wattpad, like the Wattpad where it's like One Direction is here to like invite you to their concert first row type thing. Yeah, so now I have read every single Alice Oseman book. Then I read another thriller. This was my year of thrillers. I really found that I love thrillers, especially when they're really good. So everyone was talking about The Housemaid. I rated this one 5 stars. This year I'm gonna be way harsher on my ratings, and I'm not going to rate things like as soon as I get done reading them. I'm gonna give it like a few days, and then if I like still think it's 5 stars, I'll rate it 5 stars. But yeah, so a lot of 5 stars, but it's about this housemaid. She gets hired and she finds out that her bedroom door locks from the outside. So she gets locked in her room, and as you can guess, weird things start happening. Crazy. The woman who hires her is acting really weird, crazy things. Did not see the plot twist coming. As you can see, the next book I will be talking about is A Court of Thorns and Roses. I did read most of the ACOTAR series this year. This was my very first fantasy read. It took me a hot second to get through, to like get into the world and really like just get into it. I did enjoy it. I rated this one 4 stars. It didn't get good for me until the last like probably third of the book, where it like really starts moving and like you get into like the world and you start understanding things and you meet more characters. It got me into the series. It got me to like want to continue the series. I'm currently reading Court of Silver Flames, which I wanted to finish last year, but it's just such a thick book. Okay, I'm back. I had to charge my camera, my battery, but we got Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This was another one of my 5 stars of the year, and I stand behind that 5 star, honestly. I feel like I'm really torn between if this one or if The Love Hypothesis is my favorite book of hers, but this is like, I think probably beats out The Love Hypothesis. I really love this. It's another one of her STEMinist books, so women in STEM, you know, type thing. And I think she has another one coming out this year, but I'm not sure if it's like a STEM thing or not. It's about Elsie and Jack, and I just love Jack in this book so much. And I feel like her first 2 books were kind of similar and had similar things, so I was very much expecting to not be like blown away by this. And because it is a fake dating situation, which is what The Love Hypothesis is, but it's definitely done very differently, and it's done better, I feel like, in this. And it's, you know, that rivalry between physicists. She's a theoretical physicist and he's a experimental physicist. So cover kind of makes me cringe sometimes, because like reading, like I could never read this out in public and just being like, hey guys. Okay, then in June I got my Kindle. So let me hold it up for effect. I got my Kindle and I read Flawless, the first book of the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver, and I really enjoyed it. I rated it 4 stars, so I really enjoyed it. You know, just your typical cowboy small town romance. I didn't feel like too connected to the characters, but towards the end I feel like it got a little better because I was kind of just reading it because everyone else was raving about it, but then as the book went on I was like, okay, like I get it. So I'm excited to hopefully read the rest of that series this year. Then I read Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren because I needed to see what the whole hype was about this book because everyone just raves about it and loves it, and now I do too because I did rate it 5 stars. It's a childhood friends to lovers, which I feel like a lot of people love, but I'm not like the hugest fan of because it's, you know, like pretty much every other chapter is like, okay, then and now, and I'm not obsessed with books like that. Like I don't know, I'm just like, I just want to know about like right now and then like get like little tidbits of their past maybe. I don't know, but that's just me. I feel like that's a very unpopular opinion. However, I did very much enjoy this, and it built up suspense because it's like you don't know what happened back then to make them stop talking, and then all of a sudden it's all these years later and they're like by each other again. And this book made me cry. Like at the end I definitely cried to it, so that's always I want to say good thing, but then we have another thriller, The House Across the Lake. I read this in my attempting to read a book in a day video. I rated this 4 stars. Everyone raves about this book and I very much enjoyed it, and I definitely want to read more of his books, but I didn't love it as much as everyone else seems to, and the turn it took at the end, it wasn't like my favorite kind of thriller horror genre because I don't want to spoil it, but so it wasn't like my absolute favorite, but the twists and turns still got me. It kept me like on my toes and like it was very suspenseful, and I did read most of it in a day, so I enjoyed it. And if you are thinking about picking this up, I definitely recommend, and I will be reading more of his books, but it just wasn't exactly what I was expecting, which again is good in a thriller, but it's not my favorite turn of events. I'll put it at that. Then I finally finished the second book in the ACOTAR series. Kind of in the background of all of these books, I was reading this one. This is everyone's favorite in the series, I feel like, and it definitely, I rated this 5 stars and it was definitely a favorite, but I gotta say I think Wings and Ruin is my favorite. Like that's very unpopular, but I'll talk about it when I get to it, but I enjoyed this one as well very much because the story was pretty fast paced. Like once you got through the first little bit, it was pretty fast paced, and you got, you know, all the action, all of the developments, and like the turmoil that the world is going into. It's hard to talk about books within the series without spoiling them as it gets like farther into the series, but very much enjoyed this one. After that, I read Every Summer After. This is by Carly Fortune. It's a then and now childhood friends to lovers type thing with, you know, a cottage slash cabin in the summer. Some people call it kind of like a ripoff of Love in Other Words, but I still enjoyed this. I rated this, what did I rate it? 3 stars. So 3 stars is still pretty good. It's just not one that I think about a lot. It was good for what it was. So if you want to read it, still read it, but it just wasn't my favorite read of the summer. After that, I went back on, because I have Kindle Unlimited, so I read another Kindle Unlimited book, and that was Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. This was only my second time ever reading a hockey romance of the year, but I was like, I kept thinking about Icebreaker the whole year, and I was like, I need like another book like that. And this one, it was pretty good. I rated it 4 stars. This year was the year of like reading books with dogs in it, apparently, for me. I don't know, but it was just so cute and I just loved how it went on. Then I read A Court of Wings and Ruin. I read this book, 700 something pages in 2 weeks, which for me, that is a feat. That is an accomplishment because I am a slow reader. The words on these pages are tiny. I really enjoyed this one. Like this has got to be, I love the color of it too. I just love all these books like lined up on my shelf. They look so nice. I rated this 5 stars. It's a very politics heavy fantasy book, but I enjoyed all that. I enjoyed their like strategy making and like their decisions like that had to be made and all the like just high stakes. Like you're always like on your toes like, okay, what's gonna happen next is like what's going on here. And I would love to reread it someday. I just, not anytime soon. We're not putting ourselves through 700 pages. I already got almost 800 pages of Silver Flames to read, so woo. Okay, next up, I read this actually towards the end of summer, so I feel like I didn't appreciate it as much as I could have. I read Our Scorching Summer. Okay, Lily and Nico. So Nico is her best friend's brother-in-law. so he's off limits, but you know how that always works out. They basically spend a summer like traveling the world together because he like basically pays for her to travel with him because she loses her job, fails a class, all this stuff, so she like has nothing to do for the summer, which it's all on the back. This is a thick and heavy book. I feel like it was kind of way longer than it needed to be. So it was just, you know, your basic little summary romance. It was cute for what it was. My foot is asleep. Okay, I'm talking way too much about these books. Try to keep going fast. So I started another series, The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I mostly started this because everyone says it's like Knives Out the movie, and that's like one of my favorite movies ever. Knives Out and Glass Onion, like both those movies are so good to me. So I was like, well, if I could just read it in book form, and I really like this. I rated this 4 stars. I have not continued the series yet, but I'm going to very soon. Then I picked up my Kindle again and I read The Housemaid's Secret, which is the second book to the Housemaid series, which going into it, I thought it was going to be about a different character, but it's about the same character from the same housemaid from The Housemaid. So I really enjoyed that. Like, that was a pleasant surprise. It just follows her basically taking on another job, more weird things happen, and she kind of gets herself into some trouble, and it was creepier, I think, than the first one, and like a little bit more thrilling. I rated that 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to the next one because it sounds like it's gonna be really good because it's following the same character again. So then I continued on my journey of ACOTAR and I read A Court of Frost and Starlight, the little Christmas winter novella. I rated this 3.5 stars. This is where I started rating books like, oh, by the way, this was 3.75 and then The Inheritance Games was 4.75. Okay. Housemaid's Secret was 4.25. This was 3.5 because I really got into like very specific ratings at this time of year. So Court of Frost and Starlight, again, like I said, it's basically like a little Christmas winter special of the characters where there's no war going on and there's nothing like making them like almost die basically. It's just them preparing for like a little Christmas. It's called the winter, well, they celebrate the winter solstice, not Christmas, but it wasn't anything insane. I would say you still kind of have to read this because you learn some important information towards the end, but I'm going to be very fast about this book because I have a whole vlog on it and you've seen me talk about it a million times. Second book in the Maple Hills series by Hannah Grace, Wildfire. Again, Icebreaker was like one of my favorite reads of the whole year. Could not stop thinking about it, so I was very excited when the second one came out. Rated it 5 stars, so cute, summer camp, workers, you know, vibes, loved it, very much looking forward to the next book. Then we have the beautiful cover. We got Fourth Wing. This is the special holiday edition with the sprayed edges. I'm obsessed with this red cover, it's so beautiful. I rated this 5 stars, and this is only my second fantasy of the year, so like second fantasy series of the year and second fantasy really ever. I really enjoyed this. It's about dragons and like you're training to ride a dragon and you could die at any time and it's like very high stakes and like nerve-wracking. I was really worried that people hyped it up like more than it should have been, but I think the hype was valid. I'm very scared, however, to read Iron Flame because everyone's saying that it's not as good and that it disappointed them. So I'm kind of scared. So I'm kind of putting that off because I'm like, I just want to enjoy what this book was. Oh, and then I'm quickly going to talk about my other 2 DNFs of the year. The Silent Patient, I got almost halfway through and I just kind of, the story is moving so slow and I think that's my issue. Like, really not much has happened and we haven't really found much out yet. So I'm hoping that means that the second half will be very fast paced and will I'll have all these twists and turns. But I just haven't gotten to a point where I'm like, I am excited to keep reading yet. I don't know. I do intend on finishing this year just when I'm in like a more thriller mood. And then my other DNF that I also really want to finish this year is Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune, her new book. I've talked about this a few times and I'm not trying to be mean or anything. It's just the things that people have said about this book are true. It's very much, I don't believe their chemistry and I'm like, you guys met for what, not even 24 hours and now it's 10 years later and you're like, oh my god, back then when we were like all in love. And she has a boyfriend too, so I don't even know what she's talking about. Like, I will hopefully finish it probably like in the springtime when I want like a summary book. But those were my other 2 DNFs of the year. They're not hard DNFs, like I will be coming back to them. But then in December, I read Baggage Claim on my Kindle by Juliana Smith. If you want to hear more about it, Jesus, I cannot speak. Watch my Reading Christmas Books for a Week video. I enjoyed it. It was a cute little Christmassy book. It just wasn't anything special in my opinion. What did I rate it? Let me check. I gave it 3 stars, just a solid 3 stars. Then I read Heartstopper Volume 5. This is actually a graphic novel, so I feel like I cheated, but it's still a book. Like, it's a you know, thick book. I love the Heartstopper series. I love the show. I love everything about it. And this is also by Alice Oseman, by the way. 5 stars because I just love the story and it's just so cute and wholesome and just, it makes me smile whenever I think about this. I just love these characters and this whole universe is just like so special to me. I just love it. So we're down to the last 2 books of the year. Blame It on the Mistletoe by Beth Garrett. If you watched my Christmas books video, you know I actually did not finish this in that video. I finished this a few days after Christmas. I rated this 2.75 stars. It was okay. Again, I talked about this book in that video a lot, but and like the relationships that forms, like the romantic relationships, it's like you guys don't live in the same country. Like you're literally visiting for like 5 days. You cannot like have this romantic relationship. Now to talk about the very last book that I read this year. I'm gonna tell you guys a secret. I did finish this on January 1st, but I read like 95% of the book in 2023, so I'm counting it as my last book of 2023 because I just basically fell asleep on New Year's Eve before I could finish this. But I finished it first thing in the morning. So this is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. This was a very pleasant, like, amazing way to finish my reading year. This is my favorite thriller like I've ever read. It's so good. I only really found it because Destiny Sidwell here on YouTube, she talked about it and like gave the synopsis of it and I was like, that sounds so good. So basically this girl is house sitting with her golden retriever, old beachfront home. She's like, you know, the only one for like half a mile around her, only house for half a mile, whatever. And then she leaves a review on this book online on, you know, like Goodreads or Amazon or whatever, and she gives it 1 star and she talks about how terrible the book is, and then the author starts like commenting back to her being like, oh my god, you're gonna regret this, like why are you like bashing my book like this, and leaving her like very threatening like responses back, and they go back and forth, and then weird things start happening, like so creepy, like it was so creepy to me, like weird things just start happening and all this stuff. And basically starting for page like 100-ish to the rest of the book, it all takes place in one night, so that really kept me reading. Like you're getting, it's just go, like fast paced. I devoured this so fast and it was such an amazing like last book of the year. Also, I waited until the paperback came out and I wasn't expecting it to be like this little tiny book, but it kind of like made it more fun to read because it's just like this little book that you're like flipping through the pages reading so fast. I think I genuinely got a nightmare one night because I was reading this. Like it wasn't like related to the book, but one night like in the middle of me reading this, I got a nightmare after I fell asleep. A great end to such a great reading year. So yeah, those are all of the books I read in 2023. I'm really proud of that. Like that's probably the most I could have read last year, and I'm so excited for all the upcoming books in 2024. So I'm just gonna give you guys a quick little list of just the books that are at the top of my TBR for this year. Funny Story by Emily Henry, that's her new one coming out I think in April. Daydream by Hannah Grace, the new Maple Hill series coming out next year. Not in Love, Ali Hazelwood, that's her new book. And then I think she has another one that's like a vampire book. I forget what it's called. The Housemaid is Watching by Frida McFadden, the next Housemaid book. So those are all the new releases I'm very excited for. And then just some books that have been like in the back of my mind for the past like year. Magnolia Park series by Jessa Hastings. No Exit, like I said, by Taylor Adams, same author as The Last Word. I just need to read more of his thrillers because they are actually genuinely scary and like they are just so fast paced. Like you're still getting the like main characters like, you know, backstory and stuff, but it's in like maybe 1 page of like backstory and then it gets like back to the actual story. Because I feel like some thrillers, like especially The House Across the Lake, like a whole chapter would be dedicated to the character's backstory and I'm like, I don't need all that. Like I want to get back to like the action and the story, and there's like there wasn't a lot of just like sitting around waiting for stuff to happen in this book. And then I do also have the Throne of Glass series on my TBR, but we'll see. I don't know. Also, I want to read The Fine Print, which I think I'm actually going to start today, or like the whole Dreamland Billionaire series. I definitely want to get through that this year. And then Things We Never Got Over and like that whole Lucy Score series as well this year, because those are just like, I feel like classic like booktube books that everyone talks about and recommends, so I just want to see like what's up with those books. So those are all the books I read, all the books I'm hoping to read in this upcoming year. I hope you all had a great reading year. Go follow me on my Bookstagram, Eden's Readings, if you want to see more like live updates of my reading and like books I'm buying and stuff. Leave me any book recommendations down below, any books you maybe want to see me read or review, and any book videos or non-book videos that you want to see from me this year. I tried to hopefully not ramble too much about these books, but that was my reading year. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time for another video. Bye.